Your Excellency, Helen Desalegn, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and Chairperson of the African Union, Excellency Dr. Ajanje, Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Excellency Dr. Najim, Vice President of the Union of the Comoros, Excellency Dr. Carlos Lopez, Executive Secretary of the ECA, Dr. Erastus Uche, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, members of the civil society, members of the youth delegations here present, I salute you. Let me start by giving appreciation to the government of Ethiopia for their hospitality and leadership for this conference. I also like to thank the African Union Commission, in particular the chairperson through the deputy, for leadership and partnership with us, and also the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa for putting this conference together. I'm particularly grateful to my friend Carlos and the ECA for their strong and active support in making the conference possible, and also for their valuable contribution to the regional review process which has brought all of us here today. A little over 19 years ago, on this great continent of ours, a vision was born in Cairo that sought and put people at the center of development. And that was to be as a means to realize the well-being and the dignity of every individual, to ensure sustained economic growth, and to enable harmony between man and nature. That vision and its blueprint, referred to as the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development, has provided a standard for global development since 1994. Today, we're here and we have the opportunity to revisit the RCPD agenda, its successes, its gaps, barriers, lessons learned, and to agree as a continent on a new action going forward. At the same time, you will be contributing to a global vision of development as we reach the deadline of the Millennium Development Goals, and as the global community is considering a development agenda beyond 2015. So these are co-terminals, and I believe that it's auspicious for us to be able to do this and contribute effectively as an African agenda to that global development agenda. We have the opportunity to make history and achieve long sought after goals. And as you heard from Carlos, Africa is the fastest growing region in the world today, economically and in many other areas. Democratic rule is flourishing. Our sons and daughters are leaders in science, research, and technology. Our people in both rural and urban areas are innovating with information and communication technology in ways that define a world on the move. We recently celebrated in this city the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Organization of African Unity, and at that time we underscored our determination to transform Africa over the next 50 years. The link between the findings of and the recommendations of the ICPD Beyond 2014 review and the vision of Africa's founding fathers 50 years ago could not be clearer or more direct. After securing the independence of our countries, our leaders recognized that, in the words of the EU Charter, freedom, equality, justice, and dignity are essential objectives for the achievement of the legitimate aspiration of the African people. They then decided to unite their efforts to achieve a better life for every African. So today, as we reflect, let us ask two questions. Have we achieved a better life for all our people? Is there any reason for Africa not to lead on the issues of freedom, equality, justice, and dignity that our leaders half a century ago declared essential to realizing the legitimate aspirations of our people? I think we have the opportunities to do both. Africa has made great strides in governance, educating its people, ameliorating acute poverty to some degree, reducing communicable diseases, recognizing and according to our women the equality and security they're entitled to. Much as we've done all of those, there still needs to do more. Africa lags behind some other regions, and our region faces a number of challenges. Challenges related in some parts to extreme poverty and income disparities, social exclusion, inequalities, and the need to address the generations of the young particularly, and recognize that as we look at the young, we also must provide for the elderly. Challenges that relate to the status of women and girls, and to ensure universal access to basic health services, including sexual and reproductive health services, as well as addressing the unmet need of some 47 million women in sub-Saharan Africa for contraception and family planning. Challenges related to urbanization, migration, complex emergencies and conflict, the environment, food insecurity, and climate change. These challenges are all linked, and we will be well on our way to address them when we put people at the center of development. And the key to breaking the cycle is to realize that the vision of our founding fathers and in Cairo, that an investment on the continent's greatest asset, the African people, particularly our women and young people, is the way forward. With 11% of the world's population, Africa bears 24% of the global burden of disease. The region accounts for just 1% of the world's financial resources for health and 3% of the global health workforce. This results in limited, inequitable access to health services and poor outcomes for our people, particularly the most vulnerable of us. And that is why the issues of equity and inequalities come in. 450 African women and girls die every day in childbirth, accounting for more than half of all preventable maternal deaths worldwide. The region also accounts for about half of all the deaths of children and 75% of all HIV-related deaths globally. The ICPD Beyond 2014 that we just surveyed showed notable gaps in the attention paid by governments to urban management and urban services, to out-of-school youth, to research and data collection, and to environmental management. The dignity and the needs of older people people living with disabilities, and the facilitation of school completion for pregnant girls received significantly lower levels of government commitment in our region than in the others. Our key message from the review is that we must sustain the momentum on gender equality and universal access to sexual and reproductive health services and reproductive rights. It's not only the right thing to do, it is crucial for sustainable development. The MDGs have done well in Africa, as we've listened to, but the one that is most off track is the MDG that speaks to the theme of this conference. And that is predominantly due to insufficient progress in our region that stems from gender inequality and low status of girls and women, such as reducing maternal mortality and ensuring universal access to sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights. It is unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen, that in the 21st century, girls are still subjected to harmful practices such as female genital mutilation and child marriage, which violates their rights to health, to physical and mental integrity and life. Of the 10 countries worldwide, the highest rates of child marriage, 8 of them are in Africa. Pregnancy complications remain the leading cause of death amongst adolescent girls aged between 15 to 19. This must stop, and we can put a stop to it. Many of our countries represented here actually have laws and legal frameworks that say that age of marriage should be 18 and above. So let us implement this, and let us advocate for its implementation. So tackling the gender inequalities and critical barriers that prevent women and girls from exercising their rights and empowering them must be the heart of our efforts to create secure, sustainable, prosperous, and resilient societies. We know that when countries invest in girls and other young people in their access to education and quality education and skills development, including reproductive health, education, information and services, household incomes rise, disease burden fall, child survival improves, and individuals and economies thrive. The challenges of responding to the needs of Africa's more than 50 million adolescent girls is linked to the youth bulge, that is the demographic bulge. We know that our continent is in demographic transition, and there is much anticipation and excitement around the demographic bulge and its potential demographic bonus. We must, however, be strategic, innovative, and forward-looking if we are to harness these demographic dividends. We have to educate girls, we have to keep them in school, we have to empower them to make choices, we have to make sure that they can be part of civil society. Of the 1 billion people on the continent, over 30% of them are between the ages of 10 and 24. So when we combine Africa's children and youth, it makes up to 60% of our total population. And by 2050, Africa's young people will account for almost a quarter of all the young people in the world. This young population, indeed, is our greatest asset, and we must ensure that we empower them not only to develop Africa, but to be the vanguard for development of the world. However, they have to be fully engaged, educated, healthy, productive young people so that they can meet that objective. Now, let me break it down. Girls make up half of this enormous youth population. So if Africa is to take advantage of this demographic transition, we must invest in our daughters, in ensuring that each young girl has access to all of the things I've talked about: quality education, skills development, entrepreneurship, for them to be able to get decent employment and create wealth for themselves. We must remember that the demographic dividend is not automatic. It's something that we must work towards. Let me now turn to the issue of discrimination and violence on the basis of gender and sexual orientation and sexual behavior. In some countries, government have enacted laws criminalizing either sexual orientation or some other forms of consensual adult sexual behavior. Ensuring well-being, human dignity, and sustainability requires tolerance and respect for human rights. While respect for and promotion of human rights should be an end in itself, the way to treat each other has policy implications, including for public health. The Charter captures this the Charter of the UN captures this when it states that equality, justice, dignity are essential to the achievement of the legitimate aspirations of all peoples, and it's also in the AU Charter. In the ICPD Program of Action, our countries also declare that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, with everyone entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, without distinction of any kind, including the rights to life, liberty, and security of person. We also declared the eradication of all forms of discrimination. By those declarations, our government recognized that ensuring human rights, particularly the rights of women and young people, particularly adults and girls, is the key to sustain social and economic development, and that population is not just about counting people, but about making sure that every person counts. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, over the past 3 days, your senior officials have worked hard to produce the Africa Common Position on Population and Development, and that you have before you. In passing the UN General Assembly resolution mandating the ICPD review, your government called for it to take into account the need for a systematic, comprehensive, and integrated approach to population and development issues. They asked that the review respond to new challenges relevant to population and development and the changing population environment, and reinforcing integration of the population and development agenda in global processes related to development. In other words, we are here not to focus only on previously agreed language or past differences. We are here to reflect on the findings and conclusions of the ICPD Regional Review and to chart the way forward. You will have done your duty if the outcome of this conference matches the vision of our founding fathers, our commitment to Africa's transformation, and the expectation of every man, woman, and young person on this continent. We believe, as our leaders did in Cairo in 1994, that every human being matters. We also believe that if we do this and do it right, it should fit quite nicely into the post-2015 development agenda, which Africa should take the lead and chart the way forward. So recognizing the uniqueness of every individual with respect to their rights and dignity is key to ensuring welfare and well-being and the dignity of all of us. Let us move forward, march forward, and do that together. I thank you very much.